Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and this is presented by the Grid Network. That is right. I'm happy we are back for another week, and we have some interesting storylines to talk about this week. We have the Patriots preseason game number 1, which had a lot of highs, definitely some lows, and we're going to see maybe some unknown names kind of come out of the woodwork, and hopefully these unknown names will actually stick, unlike some past guys, i.e. Zach Sudfeld. Remember him? So we got that. We also have the Red Sox. Ever since the trade deadline, things were looking up, and then all of a sudden they go out to San Diego, and woof, it has not been smooth sailing since. They got a big time win last night. And then also a little bit of breaking news yesterday. Wyc Demoted will no longer be the controlling governor that I think we all thought it would. Why now? What's going on with that storyline? So we're going to get back to, first and foremost, the New England Patriots. That is right. They had their first preseason game, number 1, where they absolutely annihilated the Washington Commanders last Friday in Gillette Stadium. They had the joint practices with them leading to the game, and it was an absolute demolishment. Now, first thing I do want to say, of course, the Commanders did not play 30 of their key players, 30 of their starters, so take that with a grain of salt. Otherwise, there are some big things that I want to discuss. One of them is, of course, Drake May and his performance. We got Travion Henderson just blowing minds everywhere, coming out of the woodwork and just being an elite back that he is. I'm excited for it. Otherwise, I want to get to my game day grades. It's going to be a new thing for me. Going to grade the performances of players ranking from A to F. And it's not going to include everybody. It's going to include some of the mainstays. But first, let's get to it. We got the grade A. Of course, the first name on that list, Travion Henderson, having the 100-yard kick return. Then he had the 18-yard rush on the halfback toss. Lowered his shoulder, ran into a few guys. Love to see it. Also got Efton Chisholm III, led all receivers in receptions, DJ James, and the kickers. Now, with Efton Chisholm, yes, he did lead all receivers, 6 receptions on 8 targets, 50 yards, and 1 touchdown. He had a great day. The kid is looking like the wide receiver we have known here in New England basically since Troy Brown. You know, he's a smaller guy, more on the Welker, Amendola, Edelman track. But I'm telling you, there's no way that this kid, after this week, is not going to make this team. I mean, he showed up in the spring. He was electric. There's even a tweet that I retweeted of him making a great inside-out move. And it's, as soon as I saw that, it's like, get this kid a uniform now. Like, it's over. It's done. But then, of course, training camp hits. He had a slow start to it. And McDaniels, I think, I don't know if it was before training camp or right at that beginning stage, but he's like, watch Danny Amendola. Watch the routes that he does. Learn it. Master it. And that's what he's been doing. I mean, last week, there were some routes that he ran during the the joint practices that you're just sitting there and you can't take your eyes off it. He looks like Edelman, like Amendola. If you don't believe me, here are a couple routes that he ran last week. I mean, the kid puts his foot in the ground, is able to push off and accelerate like it was nothing, like he didn't miss a step. I mean, that foot in the ground, duck and roll inside out. Like, oh my gosh, it was a thing of beauty. Beauty. And then, of course, he kills it. Has a great preseason game, week 1. And yes, I've talked about it on the show, and I'm going to, after the third preseason game, I'm going to put out my own 53-man roster, who should be on this team at their positions. As it stands right now, I don't see why Tom Chisholm would not be on the 53-man roster. You know, when you look at the receiver position, of course, Stephon Diggs, Matt Collins, Kayshon Boutte, Kyle Williams. That's 4. That leaves Bourne, Polk, Baker, Chisholm. I feel like I'm missing somebody. But even out of those 4, if you take 5, you know, sorry, Chisholm is the guy over Baker, especially over Polk. I mean, Polk has been awful, to say the least. You know, and his play has just not been good. I mean, he had that end around on Friday night, gained 1 yard, and then immediately jogged off due to an injury. Now, I'm not saying that his injury is fake or that it's, you know, hurting. Like, obviously it hurts. Like, he needs to be, basically what I'm trying to get at is, if this kid, Polk, wants to be better than he was last year, he absolutely needs to be on the field for practices. He's already missed a majority of the training camp, comes back for 2 weeks, and then his first time with the ball in his hand, tries to make a stiff arm and gets injured. You know, he's bigger and I think better than Tyquan Thornton, but he's having a Tyquan Thornton-esque career so far. You know, he's frail. He's not being able to progress and show that he deserved that second-round pick last year, which, don't forget, we traded out of that pick, the initial pick, which ended up being Ladd McConkey, to get this guy. Because, he'll fall back to us a couple spots. Meanwhile, Ladd McConkey having a hell of a time, not only in the NFL, but against us. Like, when the Chargers came into Foxborough last year and almost put up this exact score. Like, crazy. So I'm excited for this Tom Chisholm kid. DJ James, you know, as I mentioned, part of my A grades, DJ James is taking full advantage of his opportunity with Carlton Davis out, with Christian Gonzalez out. So that's big news. That's good to see, because outside of those 2 guys, yeah, you could say, we got Marcus Jones in the slot. He's our third corner. Okay, yes, I like Marcus. But, again, he's got a guy who hasn't been healthy for a long term, and he has the potential to be beat by bigger receivers. I mean, that play with him on the sideline against Washington on Friday night, the dude had the ball. Jones made the heads-up play to knock it out as they were going to the ground. But I'm sorry. That guy should have had the ball 100%. And it would have been a big play over Marcus Jones. So Marcus Jones is basically a slot corner. That's it. And to have DJ James do what he did, Alex Austin, who I thought was like a 5th, 6th cornerback last year, he did pretty good. He did pretty good on Friday. And then, of course, the kickers, both of them were perfect. Parker Romo kicking the 57-yarder, just looking like, where the hell did that come from? While also Andres Borregales, I think that's how you say his name. Sorry if I butchered it. But getting drafted in the 4th round, I think, you know, he was perfect on the night too. You know, he didn't have a 57-yarder, which of course, kind of gives Parker a little bit of a head start. But that's going to be a really interesting one because as we're going to be talking about another position player later on in my grades, clearly Mike Vrabel does not care. Does not care where you were drafted, where you came from free agency, how much money you're making. No. All he cares about is, are you helping this team win? And I'm here for it because that's all that matters is winning, getting the W's every single week. That's what matters. So I'm really that is a sneaky position to watch. During the next two games, the next 2 weeks and preseason is the kicking position. To see that Andres Borregales versus Parker Romo, hey, it's going to be entertaining. Moving on to my B grades, who were above average. I put the running back group as a whole, Craig Woodson, Truman Jones, and the kickoff unit. The kickoff unit, I think, only allowed Washington to the 35 once, 35 and further one time, and it was right at the 35. Every other time, the kickoff unit had them stop behind the 35, and because the reason why the 35 is important is because if the ball is touchback in the end zone, the ball gets spotted at the 35. So, of course, you're going to rate yourself as a kickoff unit. Where are you bringing the kick returner down? And that's it. It was right before the 35. And I think six times they brought him behind. They brought him down behind the 30, which is huge. That's a great stat for the kickoff unit, for Jeremy Springer, along, of course, with the Travion Henderson 100-yard kick return. I thought that kid was fast. I didn't think he was that fast. I mean, damn, was he flying. Otherwise. So the reason why I put the running back unit down as a whole was because on Friday night, they showed depth. That was a big thing for me because, yes, they drafted Travion Henderson, which is great, but we all know the issues that Ramondre Stevenson has had. We all know the issues with Antonio Gibson and his health. He was healthy last year, but when he was in Washington, he had his moments. So it was one of those, okay, what's going to happen with this group? And not for nothing, they crushed it. Having, 31 carries as a whole for 153 yards, average basically 5 yards a carry. Ramondre Stevenson, 7 carries for 36 yards, averaging, of course, 5.1. Lan Larison, the other undrafted rookie out of the middle of nowhere. I think his school is out in coastal California, something like that. Nowhere school, who is actually featured in this photo right there, Lan Larison. He had a great night with the third stringers, going 7 carries for 35 yards, average 5 carries. And again, another guy who is not afraid to get down and dirty, though I think he paid the price for it. I think he's going to be on the shelf for a little bit. Yeah, he's already on the IR, which is tough. Dealing with a foot injury, of course. Antonio Gibson taking the ball, rushing 6 times for 26 yards, a little over 4 yards a carry. And then Travion Henderson, of course, 1 rush for 18 yards. I mean, if Lan Larison can stay healthy, I don't see why not. To have Travion, Stevenson, Gibson, and Larison, that's a solid running back group right there. And that was really impressive to me because especially the amount of times Ramondre hit the hole and didn't fumble the football, it was great. It was great to watch. Something that he needs to continue. He needs to continue to hold on to that football. So, big fan of the running back group right now. Craig Woodson and Truman Jones. Craig Woodson, the rookie safety, surpassing Kyle Duggar, man who's much lower on my list, playing with the second stringers and now getting reps, with these joint practices with the top group, being there. Because as I've said before on this show, the issue that I have with, with Duggar and the safeties is you got Duggar and Peppers who are basically the same guy, and they need a safety like a Devin McCourty, a free safety who can roam around, read the field. Now, it would be nice if he was as fast as McCourty, going sideline to sideline, being able to cover everything. But that's something that, hey, you know what? Craig Woodson moving up on the board, and Truman Jones being able to get a run stuff, being able to affect the passing game against Sam Hartman, in Washington. I thought he kind of showed his stuff. I was like, all right, another position that I'm going to be looking into, trying to see what these guys have. Are they capable of, being out there with the number ones, going against the best of the best? Because that is something that, I don't know. You got some of these guys who it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, this is where it's going to get a little interesting. And of course, please let me know your thoughts down below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Of course, you got all the social media platforms here right below. You got the Boston Sports Summit on Instagram, on X, YouTube, and of course the Grid Network. But this is where it's going to get a little fun because I cannot wait to see your comments on this. C, Drake May and the rookie O-lineman, which, of course, is Jared Wilson and the number 4 overall pick, Will Campbell. Drake May, yes. Did he lead them down to a touchdown? Of course. Did he run it in? Yes. Did he make any big mistakes? No. I thought Drake May's game, while he didn't make the big mistake on the second drive, he did a lot of checkdowns. He played it very safe. And of course, I think they were trying to establish the run game, trying to showcase Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson, just to kind of see what they have there, see how the offensive line run blocks, because Garrett Bradbury's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. Will Campbell, better run blocker. I mean, you could see it last night. But when it came to that fumble on his first drive for Drake May, as you could see in this picture right there, the ball leaving his hand as he's getting sacked. Of course, it's not just Drake May's fault. The sack absolutely was on Will Campbell and Jared Wilson. 1,000%. But that fumble was Drake May doing way too much. That is something that he needs to get out of his game. Because not only is he wrapped up by the ankle, mind you, and trying to hop along and drag and trying to get his foot out of the grip, which could lead to 1,000 different injuries with the ankle, which as I'm watching the replay and rewinding and playing, I'm thinking to myself the whole time going, this is the type of stuff where players get injured and it's not good. It's not good because that has the making of a high ankle injury, a broken ankle, a foot injury to tear your ligaments in your foot because, again, the slightest, and next thing you know, Drake May's done for the season. At that point, Drake, go down. Especially if they have you wrapped up by the ankle like that, go down. Live to fight another day. And yeah, you've heard this all across Boston sports media. You've heard this from Mike Vrabel. You heard it from Drake May himself. I get it. But he being able to talk about it is one thing. It's another thing on Saturday afternoon, which game against the Vikings is on Saturday at 1, mind you. But if God forbid something like that happens again, he needs to go down. And if he does, great. He'll learn. That's excellent. Live to fight another day. Don't do anything crazy. But he did something crazy. He tried to transition the football. He twisted around, going down, trying to get rid of the ball. Ball slips out of his hands. And luckily, the defense not only saved your ass, but also their kicker sucks. Missing a 47-yarder or, no, it wasn't a 47-yarder. Yeah, it was. See, I know exactly what I'm talking about. But no, in all honesty, yeah, the defense saved Drake May's ass. The kicker, of course, for Washington helped out. And Drake May comes out for the second drive, takes it easy, hits his checkdowns, and runs the ball, trots in. There you go. Touchdown. Great. Do I think Drake May deserves to be an A or a B? No. He was average at best. Now, if he hit a deep ball to Kyle Williams or to Mac Hollins, hit that touchdown fade that Hollins was running right in the front of the end zone, okay, then yeah, maybe I would have bumped him up to a B. Maybe more on the B- scale. But, that is where Drake, I think, he needs to keep, if we're going to succeed, he needs to keep the turnovers down. That's a given. And that's not just a given for him. That's a given for any team in the NFL, any quarterback. As long as you can keep the turnovers down, you're putting yourself in a good chance to win. And so the other reason why, too, I had the rookie O-lineman there is because while I loved watching Will Campbell run block and just hit a linebacker, hit a DB, and just drag him 15 yards downfield to throw his ass into the dirt. Again, he's a left tackle. He's 6'6". He's over 300 pounds. If he's not burying DBs or hell, even some of these linebackers today on the second and third levels, which second and third level, second level linebackers, third level DBs. If he's not doing that, then what are we doing? He shouldn't even be an offensive lineman if he's not doing that. But that doesn't mean I didn't love that. I love that mentality because you could see he was just a whole different cat, man. He was like, I am going to kill you. And that's the type of attitude you love, and so, but on that sack, the Drake May sack fumble, he got beat by the end trying to cut up and in, and then the tackle did a stunt around, and both Jared Wilson couldn't, he was too focused on the tackle, so by the time the end came at Wilson on his left shoulder, he turned and it kind of broke contain, and Will Campbell stuck with the end rather than trusting Wilson to get the guy and then breaking off to get the tackle to push him away from Drake May, which of course then led to the sack fumble, and Jared Wilson also too on the running touchdown. If you go back and watch that with Drake May, he was late to the tackle again. Tackle beat him on the inside towards Garrett Bradbury, which forced Drake May to step up and around. And luckily, all the defensive backs and linebackers were behind the goal line. So Drake May had at least 6 yards in front of him to, do whatever the hell he wanted, which of course turned into I'm just going to run left and walk in for a touchdown, which was the right thing to do. It was. But Jarrett Wilson did get beat there. And while I think, again, Wilson is going to be better, while I think Campbell will be better and showed some promise, both Wilson and him showed some promise, not only with their, aggression, while also with their pass protection and their run blocking, which, again, this O-line is much better suited for run blocking. I still think that, again, it's preseason game number 1. They get a C. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so, yes, Drake May and the rookie O-lineman, in my opinion, they get C's. All right? It's preseason game number 1. I'm not going to freak out about it. But these next group of players kind of need to get their act together unless they're going to get cut and or traded. That being, well, Josh Dobbs not going to get cut, but Josh Dobbs, Kyle Duggar in the wide receiver room. Now, yes, I say Josh Dobbs because I was thoroughly unimpressed with his passing. I mean, he was behind a lot of guys, underthrew a lot of guys. He underthrew Kyle Williams, who had his man by 1.5 feet. Josh Dobbs just should have used all his power if he didn't and just chucked that as far as he could have absolutely thrown it, because the way Kyle Williams had his man beat, oh my God, it was a no-brainer. Walk-in touchdown. But of course, Dobbs underthrew it, and Williams was, smart enough to break up the pass. So that is something that he absolutely needs to work on. Of course, some of the throws in the red zone on the touchdown that he ended up running in were behind guys. He waited too long. He needed to get the ball out faster and just didn't. And listen, could the scheme, could the play be a part of it? Of course. But at the end of the day, he knows exactly what's happening and should have known, hey, bum, bang, but he didn't. So I did not like Josh Dobbs' performance tonight or Friday night. And again, does that mean he's going to be cut? Doubt it. But another guy, or a couple other guys, Kyle Duggar, he's a character that signed a 4-year deal, making $15 million a season. And he was playing all game, which is not good if he has had the career that he has. So he's been playing with the first stringers. He's been, one of the safeties with Jabril Peppers for the last few years. Of course, he's had his coverage issues and coverage struggles, and the Patriots have just dealt with it, which is probably part of the reason why the last 2 years we've won 4 games. Not entirely on him, but, of course, contributed to it. Otherwise, earlier today, Mike Vrabel had a press conference, and again, if we're talking about guys who need to look out as to whether or not they're getting cut or going to be on the trade bubble, this was a really interesting response from Mike Vrabel earlier this afternoon when talking about Kyle Duggar and him being moved back to the second team. Take a listen.
Making sure that he's where he needs to be and understanding that the coverage concepts and everything we do keep working and keep progressing. A lot of this is the guys that have earned a right to take a look with that first unit. And again, there'll be different lineups and different things. And so we'll just focus on the reps that you get. And right now, his attitude's been great, and he's had a long recovery in the off season. So
yeah, I mean, Kyle Duggar had a bad miss tackle in the first quarter. He, has not clearly grasped the coverages and the coverage schemes that Vrabel and the DC, Terrell Williams, want to implement. And with that, it's leaving him vulnerable. And that's the thing I respect about Mike Vrabel. Guess who was the one that signed him last year? Elliott Wolf. Elliott Wolf signed Kyle Duggar to this extension. 4 years, making 14, 15 a year. And it's not looking good. It's not. The fact that he played the whole game, or at least a majority of it, and played into the second half, third, fourth quarter, means he's going against the backup of the backups. And for Duggar's sake, again, being able to grasp the coverages, being able to see, what he needs to do. I mean, he knows what he needs to do. It's just that he's not a coverage safety. He never has been. He's always been a down in the box, extra defender, and just tried to hit the hole. And when he tries to hit the hole, he gets beat. He gets beat over the top every time. So with Duggar, yeah, it's something to keep your eye on. Because that's something where I don't know. I wasn't even a fan of signing him last year. I didn't like it because, as I've said before, Peppers and Duggar are the same guy. Peppers is is a better coverage safety than Duggar by a mile. But again, that's not saying much because Duggar is not good at it. So, I mean, listen, I hope he figures it out. I hope he can do it and live up to the contract. Otherwise, if they were to cut him outright, the Patriots, who again have millions of dollars, they're one of, if not the top team in the league in terms of money available, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute with Terry McLaurin. But if the Pats were to cut Duggar before week 1, they would have a dead cap of $14.25 million. $14,250,000 for this year alone. But if they find a trade partner, doesn't matter for what, but if they're able to trade him before week 1, they're going to save $10 million and only pay a dead cap of $4.5 million. So obviously they're going to look to trade, and not for nothing, they still have the cap space available to keep him on the team. As long as he is able to bring value to this team, and of course, I got no problem keeping the guy. But if we're talking about, let's say, just because we're talking about Efton Chisholm, you either keep the extra receiver with Efton Chisholm or you keep Kyle Duggar. But of course, keeping Kyle Duggar makes your safeties perfect. I think they keep 4 or 5 safeties or DB. So again, 4. Let's say it's 4, right? You keep 4. Duggar's the 4th, or you keep Efton Chisholm, which is going to make a 7th receiver. Not for nothing, I'd keep Chisholm. I'd create an extra receiver spot because of how that kid has played versus how Duggar has played. So, and then lastly, you're probably thinking why the wide receiver room? For a D, simple. First and foremost, outside of Efton Chisholm, who, of course, led the receivers. Like I said earlier, 6 receptions, 8 targets, 50 yards, and a touchdown. No wide receiver caught the ball until 38 seconds. At 38 seconds till halftime. That was the first catch for a wide receiver all game. And then, of course, they were able to round it out to, they did not have a good night overall. Efton Chisholm had 6 catches. Let's see. Jeremiah Webb had 2. Yeah. Mac Hollins, 1 target, no catches. Kyle Williams, 4 targets, no catches. Javon Baker, no catches, 2 targets. I mean, not a good night for the wide receiver room. And that's a room where we keep yearning for someone legit. And yes, Stefon Diggs is here. It's great. We have a guy. Yes, he's coming off an ACL tear. I get it. But at the end of the day, and it's preseason game number 1, like I said earlier, with the rookie O-lineman and Drake May, I'm not overreacting, but that's what I saw. When your wide receivers, when one wide receiver makes the vast majority, makes 90% of the night's catches, yeah, what does that tell you? It did not look good for the wide receivers. And speaking of wide receivers, we're going to hold off on the grades because we got one final grade, which is more just kind of funny than anything. But the Terry McLaurin saga. Okay, Terry McLaurin requested a trade out of Washington. I am done. You're not meeting my number. And I formally requested a trade. Washington, no more than 2 days later, comes up to Foxborough. Of course, McLaurin stays home, doesn't participate, but you have the Washington guys here. So then the reports, of course, come out Wednesday, Thursday-ish, that the Commanders, they're not going to trade him. But they're also not meeting his number, which he's 29, about to be 30, and he wants a number that's greater than 30. Which, why not? He's been an elite receiver since he came into the league in 2019. And who has he had as his quarterback? The one time he had a semi-legit quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick gets hurt. Week 1, week 2. And he still puts up 1,000-yard seasons. Almost like Stefon Diggs to some degree. 2 different receivers, but in terms of production. So, Washington is in your building. You're telling me that you couldn't talk and say, listen, your player wants out. We need help. We love him. What is it going to take? You have a price. They have a price. Yes, they keep saying, oh, we're not trading them. We're not trading them. They can say that all they want. They are in your backyard. You're telling me you could not get a deal done? Come on. To sit there and say that, oh, well, hey, see, no, they're their own words. They're not going to trade them. Everybody's got a price. Everybody's got a price. You float a first-round draft pick. You float out a top-tier player And I don't mean like top tier, like give up May or Diggs or Gonzalez. No, you're not doing stupid stuff like that. But come on. Because then he comes here, you have all the cap space in the world still one of the top teams after spending all the money that we did this offseason. Everybody's got a price. Terry McLaurin should have been a Patriot by this weekend. If you agree, comment below. If you disagree, comment below. Otherwise, like the video. If you enjoy what I'm saying. So that's my rant on Terry McLaurin, because it's so sometimes it seems like nothing's going on, nothing's being done behind the scenes. And of course there is. They got plenty of guys scouting, plenty of guys working with the GM, calling up, Washington, saying, hey, what are we thinking? What are we doing? If you put Elliott Wolf and their GM in a room together, you can't tell me that they can't hit, actually, no, wait a minute. I was wrong. I said Elliott Wolf. Of course they're not going to hammer it out with Elliott Wolf in the room. If you put Mike Vrabel or Ryan Cowden in the room with the Washington Commanders GM, they can get a deal done. They can absolutely get a deal done. Throw Kyle Duggar in there. Why not? They need an extra guy that can hit hard. I mean, we're not playing them this year. So otherwise, getting back to the grades, the final grade of the night, the big F. The more I thought about it, the more I'm thinking to myself, why would I want to give somebody an F now? I mean, the D is kind of a harsh grade for preseason game week 1, but I didn't think anybody necessarily earned an F. They weren't that bad. There were downs, of course. There were players who missed tackles, allowed, missed assignments, didn't catch the ball when the ball hit them right in the hand, stuff like that. But it wasn't enough to earn an F. So the person/thing that earned the F was that ball spotting technology. Now, up in the third quarter, well, actually, throughout the NFL, they, of course, are allowing a chip in the football that measures the spot, where the ball should be, its relationship to the first down marker, completely eliminating all the chain gang walking out onto the field, measuring it, doing all that fun stuff. But if you go back and watch that, it's kind of interesting because literally as they're shooing everybody away, trying to get the camera lined up exactly, the ref is holding the ball in his outside hand away. So if the first down marker is here, the ref is holding the ball here. Even though he might be standing kind of where it should be, the ref is still spotting the ball. So what does that mean to tell you? Does that mean even with all the technology that we have, with the billions upon billions of dollars the NFL is making, you're telling me that the VAR system in Europe soccer, the Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, all those VAR systems can detect if my pinky toe is offsides. My pinky toe, not my big toe, my pinky toe is offsides. But we can't still figure out where to spot the actual football. We're trying. But if the referee is still holding on to the football, who's to say that the referee would still spot Josh Allen short? And then the camera, the NFL's VAR, I'm just calling it that, the NFL's version of that would still spot the ball short. And then everybody can, or all the Chiefs fans can still say, see, he was short. Nah. right? Where, no, he got the first down, but the refs are still spotting the damn ball. So that, to me, earns an F, because if you really want to modernize the game, get it to a point where, listen, the referees are still going to make mistakes. There's no two ways about that. But missing the spot of a ball like that is massive. And clearly we saw it last year with Josh Allen allegedly getting the first down. Because he did get the first down. Come on now. So it's the game on Friday was great because football is back, baby. Football is back. We don't have to rely on the Red Sox trying to live up to the hype anymore, because we can just watch football and be happy about it and content. Because in less than a month, we got week 0 for college football. In about a month, we got the NFL's first slate of games. We got the fantasy, all our fantasy football drafts are coming up. So, it's going to be so much more peaceful until one of my guys slides down at the goal line because he wants the clock to run down rather than scoring a touchdown, which would have given me the absolute win. Otherwise. And I know there was another big event on Friday. I'm going to get to that later in the show, but we're going to move on to the aforementioned Boston Red Sox, where they came off a massive victory last night, absolutely crushing the Houston Astros 14-1, which should have been shut out 14-0 basically. And that's going to be that was a lot of fun. It was surprising too. And I'll get to that in just a minute. But first, we got a frequent commenter, Sports Bomb, commenting after preseason game 1, how many games do you think the Pats will win this year? I think with their attitude, with Mike Vrabel, I know I've said before, talking about this wild schedule, losing only 5 games, going 12-5. The more I think about it, of course, and then watching, I don't think that's realistic. But I do think that this team is, at bare minimum, an 8-win team. I think at bare minimum, they're an 8-win team. So that to me is, I think the amount of wins that they'll have this year, it's not going to come easy. But I think Vrabel, Vrabel knows what he's doing. And not to disrespect Gerard Mayo, but Vrabel has a much, much better grasp. And you can clearly see it in the training camp, the practices, the joint practices, and obviously that game Friday night. So I think, we're still not the most talented team in the world. Had we traded for McLaurin, if we got McLaurin and still have the opportunity to get him, then I can sit there and be like, okay, we're now a 10-win team, minimum. But there's still, of course, a lot that could happen. So now, like I said, moving on back to the Red Sox. They've had an up and down, what seemed like a lot of up after the trade deadline has kind of come back down to earth, because as you can see here, we swept Houston, at the beginning of August, won 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, won the first game in San Diego, and then lost in absolute dramatic fashion on Saturday night to the San Diego Padres, where I'm telling you, the one time in extra innings we're trying to play small ball, we're actually trying to do the fundamentals, David effing Hamilton, who, thank God, got sent down to AAA, was extremely selfish in extra innings, because we have a man on second, no outs. We're trying to get the man to third, so that way the next hitter, all he has to do is bare minimum hit a deep fly ball, and that will give us a one 1-run lead. Great. That's what you should do. That's where the fundamentals of baseball are gone. Small ball needs to make a comeback. But David Hamilton, that moron, decided to try to drag bunt every single time, lean out and tries to get down to first base because he wants to get a man on third and a man on first, which obviously, but he can't hit. He can't play defense. His only asset is speed. So if your only asset is speed and you don't know how to bunt, what good are you? You're not. You're a moron. So we lost because of foolish play like that. And then, of course, we give it up in extras. Then we get smacked around by the Padres and Dylan Cease, which, interesting. Weren't we tied to Dylan Cease earlier this season? Wasn't he made available at the trade deadline? Wasn't there allegedly a deal kind of in place where Duran would go to San Diego, we'd get Cease and a minor league guy and, kind of solve our backup pitcher and first base problem? Wasn't that a thing? It was. So, of course, we didn't go through with it. One, because, we love Duran. I love Duran. But Dylan Cease, it would have been a rental. And so to Breslow and the analytics guys, the computer crunchers, nerds, they punched the numbers and they didn't like it. Well, Dylan Cease smacked you around on Sunday and you lost 6-2. At least from a pitching perspective, not a hitting perspective. And then, of course, we come in on Monday against Houston and Garrett Crochet does not have a good night. Gives up 5 earned. Jordan Hicks comes into the game, which I'm going to talk about him and his little words of wisdom from yesterday. But he comes in the game, gives up a 2-run bomb, and then what happens? We're down 7-2 and somehow make a comeback to make it 7-6. Had we not thrown in the flag, the white flag with Jordan Hicks, the white towel, we could have, if everything played out exactly the same, had Urias not got that home run, we could have won that game. But no, Jordan Hicks had to go ruin it. And he had some words of wisdom yesterday for the Globe. But first, I want to look at the fact that the Red Sox are 7-4 since the trade deadline. We are, if I can get rid of the banner here, put up this one, 24-11 since July 1st, which is the best in the American League. We've had, of course, multiple winning streaks, as I've, of course, highlighted here. And then when you're looking at the AL East standings, we are still second. We've, of course, fallen back a couple of games from Toronto. We were 2.5 games at one point last week, I'm pretty sure. And then now we're 2.5 games back. Toronto and the Red Sox kind of have the same last 10 game, going 6-4. And then when you look at the wild card, we did lose out to that top spot in the wild card due to that losing streak, the end of Kansas City, all the way into San Diego and Monday night. We're sitting, of course, a game and a half behind the Astros, but we're also a game and a half ahead of the Yankees. So we're firmly in that wild card hunt. And the best part is Fangraphs now has updated their playoff odds. We are now at 75% to make the playoffs. Clinching the wild card is at 66% or 67%, along with the 0.8. Clinching the bye is 5.6. Winning the division, they calculate us at 8.2%. making the World Series at 7.3%, and then World Series champs at just under 3%. So there's a chance. And going back to, John Henry saying that, or not John Henry saying, but through a grapevine, John Henry in the past, which is probably still true today, has stated that winning the World Series is his barometer of whether to invest in the team or not. If we're not X percent, which I wouldn't be surprised knowing him and his cheap ass, it's 15%. That then he'll invest in the team, which is absolutely foolish. Because as I've stated before on this show, that the playoff odds to win the World Series, even now, as currently constituted, there are 3 teams that have a greater than 10% chance. It's the Mariners, the Phillies, and the Dodgers. When I first made that statement a couple of weeks ago, right around that trade deadline, it was 2 teams, and it was the Phillies and the Dodgers. So the Phillies and the Dodgers haven't changed and probably won't change because you have guys like Dave Dombrowski, like the owners of the Dodgers, who will spend through the money, spend through the nose to get all the best guys, as many of the top guys as humanly possible. And, and that's why they're winning. They're going after and getting the top talent. So when you get top talent, when you pay for top talent, your odds obviously go up. And we didn't pay for top talent, but we are sitting at a better place now than we were even a week ago. Because if you look at it a week ago, or actually, we were better a week ago than we were now. All right, I stand corrected. 2 weeks ago, we were better off, Of course, the first number I look at, you got to love that. But again, this all goes back to the acquisitions that we made through trades this year. And yes, I'm going to say this year because the whole Devers trade, it wasn't at the trade deadline. And we, of course, are still paying for it now. Because at the trade deadline, we acquired Steven Matz, Dustin May, and that was it. We were right there with Joe Ryan by some reports. Other reports were feeble at best, again, quote unquote, from Ken Rosenthal, who, of course, then, said, oh, it wasn't feeble, but it still wasn't great, which doesn't surprise me in the least. So whether you call it feeble or not, I still believe that it's feeble because let's be honest, they love the Red Sox of the team that just love to say that they're in on guys and then just complain and whine that we did our best. See, we tried. I don't care about trying. At the end of the day, you do it or you don't. So they just love to put on that type of show because they're the victims. The front office, they're the victims, guys. Crazy. Otherwise, the Red Sox, we're right there. We're right there in the playoff hunt. We have a great chance to make the playoffs. And you know what? Once you make the playoffs in baseball, it's clear as day, anything can happen. Anything can happen. That's why going out and getting Steven Matz, okay, he's actually been pretty good for us. I'm not going to deny that. 3 games, 3 2/3 innings pitched, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and 2 walks. He's got a 0 ERA. Love to see it. That's what you want. Dustin May, on the other hand, he's got a more interesting stat line because in the 2 games that he started, because he hasn't come in for relief for us, he started both games, 9 2/3, a 2.79 ERA with 12 Ks and 2 walks. Now, that is a little bit skewed because as you can see, the loss to Kansas City was him on the mound going 3 2/3 with giving up 6 hits, 3 earned, 4 walks to 4 strikeouts to 1 walk on 91 pitches. His ERA was through the roof on game 1. He had an over 6 ERA after that first game in a Red Sox uniform. So I was walking into last night expecting the worst. I was ready to rip Dustin May to shreds, rip Craig Breslow to shreds, saying, what were you thinking? What were you doing by only acquiring Matt, who's been good, and then May, the bum? Luckily for Breslow, and technically myself, because again, I'm still rooting for this team. Like, I don't want them to suck. Like, May comes out and absolutely dominates, going 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, 0 earned, 8 strikeouts to 1 walk on 92 pitches. He was electric last night. He was right there. Best stuff probably of the year for him. And it was great. So that's why, yes, his ERA is at a 2.79. And of course, you get 1 bad, 1 good. And I heard earlier today, all the other pitchers, Merrill Kelly, Craig Morton, when they got traded, they had 1 bad, 1 good game. I don't believe that, like, every single pitcher that got traded is going to fall into that shtick, but it's convenience. It's coincidence for that matter. And I will say, Craig Breslow is so freaking lucky right now. Like, the fact that May went out and did that last night, you got to admit, he is so lucky. Because the fact that, I'm not sitting here ripping him today for the millionth time, I think it's actually good. I think it's better for me than it is for him. Because I can keep my blood pressure down and not, come on here and say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Nonetheless, the May killed it. May had a great game. It was fun to watch. Then, of course, and it was a tight game too. It was a tight game up until the 5th or 6th inning, and then the bats just erupted. Great to see, fun to watch. But Jordan Hicks, this is where it really boggles my mind, because again, this is one of the biggest failed trades. I don't care that Rafael Devers is not hitting out in San Francisco. I don't care, because he had to up and move out of left field, not realize, go to a new situation, go across the country. He's no longer a 5-hour flight from the Dominican. Like, he's in a whole different world out in San Francisco right now. So, of course, he's still trying to adjust. And yes, that excuse can only go for so long. I get it. But you're telling me that this Red Sox lineup, as currently constituted, is better with Devers out? No, it's not. And not because right now, our substitute is Yoshida. Yeah, Yoshida's had some hits, some important hits and, important times, but he's not the hitter everyone wants him to be. It's like, oh my God, just let him go. It was a failed move. It was like getting Daisuke Matsuzaka. He has half a good season, a good year, and then kind of just putters around. Yoshida can't field. He's not an outfielder in this league. He's only a DH, and we're paying through $90 million to this guy. And to all the GMs out there who were laughing in our faces, the fact that we went out and overspent for Yoshida, I kind of get it now. Like, I got it earlier in the season, and now I really get it. And I'm not saying that Yoshida totally sucks, but honestly, I would have gotten rid of Yoshida and gotten back a bucket of baseballs for him and kept Devers. But we all know, of course, that Devers going out to San Francisco was a complete and total salary dump. One of the reasons is because the guy that they traded for, James Tibbs, was the guy that they traded for Dustin May. And with that, goes to show you that they had no faith in James Tibbs to begin with. And then with Jordan Hicks, this bum, he in 14 games, his first game was on June 30th. In 14 games, he's thrown 13 innings, has a 6.23 ERA, 11 Ks, 8 walks, 3 hit batters, and 4 wild pitches. I included the hit batters and wild pitches for him and not the other two because, yes, even though May has 2 hit batters, he has 0 wild pitches, and Steven Matz has none of those. Hasn't hit a batter, has 0 wild pitches. So the reason why I want to talk about this is because in the Globe yesterday, an article came out. Red Sox reliever Jordan Hicks believes taking control of his pitch selection can turn his season around. This is written by Tim Healy. And, of course, he states out the facts that I just read to you, that in 6 weeks, Hicks has struggled with a 6.23 ERA, a 1.69 walks and hits per innings pitched in 14 appearances, and he has as many walks and hit batters as he does strikeouts. 11. You combine the hit batters, you combine the walks, it equals the same amount of strikeouts. So after the game on Tuesday, giving up that 2-run shot to Ramon Urias, Hicks thought it was a great idea to speak to the public and speak to the media and say, quote, if I'm going to be giving up these kind of runs out of the bullpen, I should really be throwing the pitch I want to throw. End quote. So you're telling me, one, you're not throwing the pitches you want to throw, so that's why you're throwing up effing meatballs to these guys? That's why you have a 6.23 ERA? Because, I don't want to throw it. It's not my fault. Huh. Okay, let's see what else he had to say. Goes on further saying, quote, you have to throw what feels good in the situation. If you have any second thoughts, you're not going to throw your best pitch. Here's an idea. Don't think. Listen. The fact that he's thinking is clearly the reason why he's in trouble. Don't think, just throw. Listen to what your catcher is telling you to throw. And then, of course, he loves his fastball. That's the whole point of this. He's been throwing a lot of sweepers, sliders, but he loves his fastball and his sinker. Meanwhile, against his sinker, opponents are slugging for about 260. So, slugging percentage-wise, not great, but he also can't control his stuff. That's the reason why the Red Sox wanted to get him, is because he can throw 100+ miles an hour. But yet, he's Wild Thing. He has no idea where the ball is going once it's gone from his hand. The fact that he's got 4 wild pitches, 3 hit batters, and what did I say? 14 innings, or 14 games, 13 innings, to have 7 of your pitches hit a guy or be deemed wild in 13 innings of work is insanity. Insanity. That's a guy who shouldn't be in the big leagues. But he is, because the freaking nerds are like, see, he could throw 100 miles an hour. No one can hit that. No! Thank you, Ogre. So he talks about the fact that, he instead threw the breaking ball the catcher called and cited that he doesn't trust anytime the catcher says, sorry. He lamented that in several key spots recently, he didn't trust his gut. He instead threw the breaking ball the catcher called for. Last time I checked, you're still throwing the friggin' ball. You can decide what you're doing with it. And then, of course, saying that his one strikeout against Dubon on Monday, which was on a 99-mile-an-hour sinker that the batter whiffed on, was the example as to why he needs to be more insistent about what he throws. See, when you're trying to override your catcher, like Garrett Crochet might, Garrett Crochet has earned the reputation. Right now, you have no idea where the hell that ball is going. So what makes you think that you can correct your catcher who is doing the homework, who is studying the game? You're telling me Carlos Narvaez doesn't go home to the hotel and studies the hitters or goes into a series without studying the hitters, their tendencies, what they like, what they don't like? That's the point. That's the catcher's job. Along with the coaching staff, that's the catcher's job, is to understand who's up to plate, where his hot spots are, where his cold spots are, and what the guy hits well and what he doesn't hit well. It's absolutely wild. I mean, Jordan says, quote, "I need to take some ownership, throw the pitch I know is right, and have that conviction." He goes, "It all comes down to taking some ownership, throwing what I know is best in that situation, and trusting myself," end quote. Me. I'm telling you, this generation is super selfish. Super selfish. Just not relying on your catcher. It's all about me, and me. Me, myself, and I. That's what Jordan Hicks thinks. This article, it just boggles my mind because, again, he's got a 6.23 ERA. He's blaming this on the pitching staff and the catcher for choosing the wrong pitch. Like I said, last time I checked, Jordan, you're the one throwing the ball. You have the determination as to whether or not you're going to try or your feelings get hurt. I don't want to throw the breaking ball. Daddy. No. You get told you're going to throw the breaking ball because the guy's not good at it. And so you throw it. You try to get it over the plate for a strike and strike his ass out. Like, what's so hard about that? You're the one doing that. You're the one pitching. You're the one who, according to you, needs to take more accountability. So here's an idea, Jordan. Take accountability for the pitches that you throw. I mean, I don't care that you didn't want to throw it. That's not the point. The point is you suck right now. Whether you give up multiple home runs, whether you blow games for us off your breaking stuff, it's not like you're painting the effing black with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I wouldn't be surprised if Carlos Narvaez or Connor Wong have a different catching stance knowing when you're throwing a fastball. And that goes out to all the other 29 major league teams. Check the catcher stance when check it when they're throwing a fastball there, when Jordan Hicks is throwing his fastball. Because they can't, they're not going to be able to get to the ball fast enough if they have, like Carlos Narvaez does, and has his one leg down. If he's got his one leg sprawled out and the ball is over his head, he's not going to be able to get to it fast enough. I mean, the audacity of this kid who's only been in a Red Sox uniform since June off a deal that all of Red Sox Nation hates, or hated, I should say, with the exception, of course, the extreme few who, for some God unknown reason, think that, oh, Craig Breslow can do no wrong. And so the funny part is, his last 2 years, even out in San Francisco, he had a 6.42 ERA with the Giants before being traded to the Sox, and had a 4.10 ERA in 2024 in 29 games. In 27 games this year for the Giants, he had a 6.42 ERA. So you just sit there and you think to yourself, what are you doing? Or, excuse me, 13 games for the Giants, he had a 6.47 ERA. I'm sorry, the first 6.42 was the combined Giants and Red Sox. He had a 6.47 ERA. So actually, ironically, he has a better ERA with the Red Sox than he did with the Giants. 6.47 to 6.23. I mean, if you can't read this and not have your blood boil, you're either, a Jordan Hicks apologist, or you don't care, because that is just absolutely wild that this man had the gall to go out and say, after giving up a 2-run shot the night prior, which happened to be the game-winning run, it's not my fault. The catcher is calling all these breaking balls, and I don't like my breaking ball. Wham. I hope the next time he pitches at Fenway, the whole place erupts in boos, because that is unbelievable to me. And so one of the last things that I do want to discuss is the Celtics. The Celtics had an odd announcement yesterday saying that Wyc is now taking a step back. He's still going to be the CEO and the backup governor, but he's not going to be the main governor, due to league sources saying that Wyc's ownership is now below 15%. So he needs that 15% to be the lead governor. And I am just wondering, why? Why now? What is about this? Because today it was announced that the sale has now gone through. Bill Chisholm's group owns the team. Bill Chisholm is obviously going to be the lead governor, and they're going to, run the team together for the next 3 seasons. Fine, so be it. But what was it about this announcement? Because we all knew that Wyc was going to stay on as as the governor. We all assumed, I guess, till 2028. Wyc was going to be the guy out in front. And then this. So my question is, was this the arrangement all along? Was this the arrangement that no one was supposed to know about? Wyc is still going to be there. Wyc is still a part owner. He's now he's a greater owner now in the team. I wonder if it's going to last. I wonder if he's still going to be a pot owner come 2028, or is this going to be a phase out where Bill will buy more of Wyc's shares, and then by 2028, the end of that, Wyc no longer owns any stake in the Celtics? Or is Wyc going to, slowly buy more shares, try to get to that 15%, and then maybe Bill will still be the majority owner, but we'll step aside. There's so many questions to this, because, of course, the original plan was to have Wyc on through 2028, and it still looks like that's going to happen. But the deal got announced today that it was unanimously passed by the Board of Governors in the NBA. And yesterday, this is the story that broke. So I'm just wondering, did Chisholm look at this arrangement and say, listen, I am now the majority owner of this team. I am the majority shareholder. I want to be the board of governor. You don't have the necessary requirement to be the lead board of governor, which then goes back to the fact that Wyc himself only owned 2% of the team with his father. So, of course, Wyc was the head governor, and that could go back to the fact that his father talked to David Stern, talked to Adam Silver, and was like, hey, my son's going to be the board of governor. I don't want anything to do with it. I own the majority stake. This is going to be on my son. Meanwhile, now Bill is like, hey, I just bought this team. This is my toy now. Or I'm wondering, too, if the fact that, hey, all the bits and pieces were sold off, Porzingis, Holiday. Does Wyc look at that and say, listen, I kind of want to take a step back because he was such the front runner to gloat about the fact that I'm the guy, this is my team, my title. He pushed Pags aside, kind of body bagged him in an interview one time. Like, there's so many questions to this, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of, this was the decision. Like, this is how it was going to go, as well as Wyc kind of saying, well, I wanted to spend all this money. I want to always build a perennial contender. And now that we're being cheap about it, maybe I'll take a step back, let Bill be the face of this. I like that. I like that story. Because if we still want to sit here and think Wyc was the greatest Boston sports owner for his entire tenure, that would be a pretty good reason to sit there and be like, hey, guys, fans, I know I'm just as upset as you are about this, but Bill's the head governor. I'm not. It was his decision, not mine. And maybe I buy out some more shares. Kind of do what Steve Pagliuca did, where by the end of it, of course, Pagliuca had the second most shares in the Celtics. I don't know. I like that. I think that's a pretty good assumption. Wyc wants to be the guy. Wyc wants to be loved. And the fact that we sold off and got cheap with the luxury tax, I think to him, he's like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Meanwhile, you got a couple comments here. Frequent commenter, Sports Mom. Governor, does it matter when looking at the talent on the team? Assuming this is just noise and not how the Celtics are going to be this year. Well, Governor is like the owner. And that's their fancy name for it. So in terms of like the talent, yeah, I mean, they got a long way to go on that. I mean, with Jaylen Brown leading the team and, now you got Bob Cousy, calling out Jaylen Brown, basically saying that Jaylen Brown is not a number one guy, and Jaylen Brown cannot lead the Celtics to a promised land. And on top of the fact too that the Celtics now don't have a Christmas Day game for the first time in a decade, pretty much tells you what the NBA thinks of Jaylen Brown as the number one guy. I mean, is it any more obvious than that? So it's going to be interesting. Again, frequent commenter, not Doug, going back to our Jordan Hicks, being a crybaby debate. Catcher is the captain on the field. Exactly. A catcher is the guy who is supposed to know everything about everybody. Everything about everybody. And including, his team, where the guys need to align on defense, as well as who's walking up to the plate, where his strong points are, where his weak points are. and is supposed to relay that to the pitcher in terms of what pitch they're going to call here. So, yeah, that Jordan Hicks story, just I saw a quote from it on X, and which, again, by the way, X, right here, click, follow. Come on, I know you want to. But I saw it, and I had to laugh at it because I'm like, there's no way that this guy is that arrogant to sit there and say that he knows best. And sure enough, I was proven wrong because he did say that. Also, Not Dog, nice shirt. That's right. Boston Sports Summit shirt is on sale. We got all this stuff. Link in the description below. It will be on after this. So check it out. Go grab your Boston Sports Summit merch. A lot of great shirts. I got a sweatshirt, a mug, a hoodie. Oh, yeah. I'm stacked. A nice long sleeve organic cotton shirt. Telling you, you can't beat it. What better way to be all natural than an organic cotton shirt? So just a FYI, though, they do shrink. So might want to go one size up. Otherwise, so again, I teased this earlier in the show, and of course, I got to talk about it. The Tom Brady statue. There it is. I give it a B. I think that the pose itself is very bland, generic. Just a simple arm raise, helmet down. There are so many other great poses that they could have had, that they could have done. A lot of them are either him screaming or they have the helmet on. I would have loved maybe even to, mix a little bit with it, because that time in Super Bowl 36, when he spiked the ball and just caught it like this, you could have him staring at it and holding his helmet to the side, kind of like a little mix of reality versus, hey, here's my face. Otherwise, it would have been so much better had his expression or his statue been the Super Bowl 51 podium pose, holding the Lombardi, thrusting it up in the air, going, yeah, like that pose. That would have been ideal. I think it would have been, everybody would have been pumped about it. Otherwise, when you're breaking it down, yes, the head does look small on it. Compared to the body, the torso does look bigger than, what Tom Brady actually looked like. Otherwise, they did a good job with the face. They actually got it right. And allegedly, part of the reason why all these sculptures get wrong is because they show teeth, and showing teeth is just so much harder, that in bronze, which doesn't make it look good. So listen, overall, I'm not like, a majority. It seems like a majority of fans out there who absolutely hate it, totally want to give it an F. But to me, I'm like, hey, it's good enough. They did a nice thing by putting all the Super Bowl trophies on there and craft with all the symbolism, or not Super Bowl trophies, but all the scores and, on the base of it, going around, all the symbolism behind it, standing a total of 17 feet tall for the 17 division titles that the Patriots won under Brady, so on and so forth. So listen, I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think they could have done so much more with it, but hey, you know what? It's a nice gesture. I think that's really how we should look at it, is that it's a nice gesture. It's a good thing that we have out there. And for those of us, who experience Brady, from his his beginnings to his rise to him going to Tampa, I mean, it was bliss, man. Being able to talk to anybody and, saying, oh, you ready for week one? I'll look at them and be like, week one is the AFC title game. What are you talking about? So it was just always fun to joke around like that. But listen, thank you guys so much for sticking around. I had a great time talking a lot of preseason hype. Introduced our game day grades, which we're going to be going on for the majority of the season, for the entire season. And hopefully, the Patriots look good. Still a lot they need to fix up, but hey, we got preseason game number 2 Saturday, 1 p.m. Yeah, for some reason they thought that was a brilliant idea, scheduling these preseason games during the middle of the day. I don't know. Well, hey, I know I'm going to be watching it. I know you are too. Thank you so much. This is the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and here we talk about all Boston sports, and you can't complain about that. We cover them all, baby. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless.